소재 저도 소재 정도로 전주부도 난내 정체 다기 진소 집에 선언 놀라든지 단계 두바라 줘 상계 저도 소재 정도로 전주부도 난내 정체 다기 진소 집에 선언 놀라든지 상계 두바라 상계 저도 소재 정도로 전주부도 난내 정체 다기 진소 집에 선언 놀라든지 상계 두바라 줘 심지어 탐지 대화는 대외 주단 등으로 주제 동화다 동화지 주단 타와 동안에 벤데와던 와주제니 차동단다에 당조란다와 주제 중루면데 조제제제도 법에 몰라던다와 이제 드라기 루돌레요 몰라자자 선남담배 빼든 그러지 말란다에 주제래 동안 시단시가 번저 지바와 하저 남절라만 줄라데 관시 도단 도제 천 사진 병아도 제가 Siwa Dimenza Gunjawa Chishananze Mawe Nimbado Mandu Jangwe Timbe Tingwe de Bobe Shisha Kala Tome Requesenge Shenjo Songsin Se Yin Chu Yin Mala Jaza Yin Jeruzo Bobe Toje Zanam Jitza Den Ribe Chewa Jen Guad Na Betung Je Zene So Tebe Kuje Chawan Chala De Zariwa Bala Neje Jolo De Jaribe Chide Jo Gua Lambe Bobe Chuje Tawa Jime Singe 사장 남아서는 저는 지대다가 사자변에다 취재자와 파발은 뭐 지대 공항을 나서는데 노지 근처에서도 저 송아리 전도가 되지 편대반으로 선보도 제가 반장람에 잘라서 왔는데 이제 사람들도 이제 소학생에 로메르다 다다 그래서 내 강이 경한데라 근데 전에 근데 로마를 뭐지 이제 취재자라서 왔는데 까진지 투지 니집바도 근도 신제로 개와 근도란다 라마나 담에 취재 발로 롱죄 사당 남지 내려서 노지장을 고반유도 저 전남 취재소 왔다베 나서 강도내에 사조도 내려 보다 되지와 최다 다시 가와제도 저 심전남제 선바도로 이제다 제다와 최종 통론 대화 취재벌로 거도 나와야 하에게 단도 단도쟁게 들어온다다메에게 나도 로아 김지라는 치삼 탐지에게도 나게 최대도 So we will continue from where we left off yesterday. As I mentioned yesterday, the main practice of this 7-point mind training is the bodhicitta. And the bodhicitta can be divided into two, the ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta practice on that is already explained yesterday. We finished that. Now, today we are going to study the second part of the bodhicitta, and that is the conventional bodhicitta. So this too also has in order to practice it, in order to study it, you have the preliminary part and the actual practice of it, and then how, while you are practicing it, how you behave during the post-meditation time or in between your practices. First, the preparation or the preliminary part of this relative bodhicitta or conventional bodhicitta is to cultivate loving kindness. In order to give rise to this conventional or the relative bodhicitta as a foundation, you must have a solid understanding and also solid experience of practicing loving kindness and compassion. So these two must go before bodhicitta. If you don't have these two, then bodhicitta will not arise. Even if it arises, it's not going to be a very good one. So that's why preparation part is the cultivating loving kindness. Okay? And loving kindness, how do one go about cultivating it? And of course, you can be creative and also innovative on your own, but some suggestions are given in different texts, and particularly in many of the Maya texts, it is recommended that we should start cultivating loving kindness towards one's own mother, because a living mother, okay? And so that's why the Kadamba tradition is very well known on this mind training, Kadamba tradition. And they go about like the 7 different steps in order to cultivate this body, loving kindness. And some examples are given here. For example, so one's own mother is very kind most of the time, right? I wouldn't say for everybody, because I have seen many different things, but generally speaking, mother is the most kind and loving towards one's own child. So therefore, every child, likes mother, right? So that's why it is easier for that reason to cultivate loving kindness towards one's mother. And taking that as the example, then you have to expand this thought of first one's own mother, and from there, this lifetimes your mother has been so kind to you, always loving, always caring. Then you have to expand this idea. It's Mayan, very ideal Mayan concept is all sentient beings are mother sentient beings. All of these sentient beings have been your loving mother one time. Because we are now talking about many, many generations, many, many lifetimes, actually countless lifetimes. So we have been born and then die and born and die. Because every time when we are born, we must have parents, right? So that's why all sentient beings have been one time your own loving mother. So that's why now you have to include all sentient beings are kind and loving, and therefore you have to think about their kindness, and and also you have to think that I cannot really repay the kindness of these mother sentient beings, that they have, so much things have done to me, like good things, like caring and all of those. How can I to repay them? It's impossible to repay them. So these are the things that you have to think. And so therefore they are very kind, and their kindness must be repaid by me, right? Whatever she needs, I have to be there and help her, achieve that. So this way, then you can cultivate loving kindness towards your mother and all sentient beings in that way, right? So this thought, again, this kind of thinking about kindness of one's mother. For that reason, all sentient beings are very kind to me. Must be cultivated again and again. We must practice. We must meditate on this again and again, because otherwise it won't last very long. If you do it, repeatedly, and then one day it will be part of you, instead of just putting a lot of effort into bringing that thought into yourself. Automatically comes, right? So up to that point, we have to practice. And so now, what is the nature? What is the nature of this loving kindness we are talking about? What kind of thought is that, right? Because many people say, "Oh, I love you." So what is that? It's easier said than what actually really means. because many people have no idea what is loving the love means. What kind of thought, what kind of feeling or sensation or whatever. Because at that time, we never think of it. But here, we are talking about loving kindness of all sentient beings. That kind of love is talking about thinking that may all sentient beings be happy. And also may all sentient beings or my mother, loving mother, be happy and be together with the cause that makes her happy. So not just like how nice it would be if she's happy, but we have to think about what makes her happy. And that cause and condition, we have to very genuinely think that, without jealousy or anything like that, competitiveness or things like that. Usually these kinds of thought comes in, right? But genuinely you have to think that I will be very, very happy if my mother is happy. And particularly I will be happy if she is now endowed with all the causes and the conditions that makes her happy. So if you have that genuine thought towards all sentient beings, that is loving kindness. So for example, when you say, I love you, you have to check at that time, do you have that kind of thought, genuine thought, right? If in the name of like loving kindness or whatever, and immediately it turns into something different, that means it's not genuine. Because this thought never changes, right? No matter what happens to that person, you never change. Your genuine thought remains. That is real loving kindness. But sometimes the loving kindness changes to rage and maybe I don't know what else. So then it's quite subtle, it's difficult to differentiate what is lost and what is real loving kindness, right? So many times I think lust and maybe attachment is mistaken with so-called love. So that's why now the loving kindness means that, right? So we have to check whether we have that kind of genuine thought, and then what is this happiness? What kind of happiness you are talking about? That you wish that your mother be happy and be with a cause that makes her happy, right? It's not just a mundane happiness, temporary, like feeling good and maybe going for a vacation that makes her happy. That kind of this, of course, is still included there, but this is not the main focus. Main focus, main happiness that you are wishing for your mother to have, for the reason all mother sentient beings to have, is the freedom from all these shortcomings of the samsara. Because the samsara, if you really, as we did a little bit yesterday, study of nature of the samsara, analyzing it. When you analyze the nature of the samsara is none other than suffering. So there is no really a everlasting happiness. So that's why as long as you are in samsara, as long as you are experiencing samsaric experience, it's not a genuine happiness. So here you are wishing for your loving all sentient beings, mother sentient beings, be happy, meaning free from suffering. Free from suffering means then, in like a, so in terminology, and this calls nirvana. In other words, going beyond this samsara. So when you are no longer in samsara, then you don't have to suffer. You don't have to go through the samsaric suffering, right? This is the everlasting, it's never changing happiness that you are wishing for your loving mother sentient beings to have. So for that reason, we have to cultivate this thought, genuine thought. And the way to do it is, as I just mentioned before, not just thinking and meditating, but there are many different means to do it. Sometimes you have to recite these words, or may all my mother loving sentient beings be happy together with the cause and conditions of happiness, things like that. So by reciting and also reflecting on the words that you are uttering can also help you develop, cultivate that thought, genuine thought. So, that's why, for example, mantras are recited many, many times. The reason behind that is so that it remains, it helps you to visualize better, right? So similarly here also, when you are cultivating loving kindness, you have to do these kinds of things like sometimes just visualize, sometimes think about some of the your actually current mother had done to you, like something very loving, something that unforgettable kind of gesture of her love towards you, and then apply this to other sentient beings. I don't remember it because of the distance of now many lifetimes, but I'm quite sure that they have done the same thing to me in my previous lives, right? So that's why utilizing your current mother and then applying that loving kindness and the caring that she gave you to other sentient beings as your own mother, a loving mother. Okay. So that is the loving kindness. Loving kindness is wishing, genuinely wishing your loving mother sentient beings be happy and endowed with the causes and the conditions of the happiness. And then compassion, second. The compassion is, again, same thing. You have to cultivate that. But the nature of the compassion is, now this time it's not thinking about happiness. This time you are thinking about free from suffering. You are cultivating on the, thinking about the suffering that she goes through. And so then you have to genuinely think, may my mother be free from suffering. And may my mother be endowed with causes and conditions that makes her free from suffering. So that is the definition or the nature of this compassion. So again, this all compassionate, person, or I have compassion, or things like that. We say it all the time. But the real thing is when you say it, we have to think, do I have this thought? Do I have this genuine? Because if you don't, you are just like uttering words, but do not mean it. Same thing, loving kindness, compassion means that. So such a compassionate person who wish that all loving mother sentient beings be free from suffering and free from all the causes, the conditions that makes them suffering, that such a person cannot cause any problem, right? Because you have that genuine thought. So that's why those who create havoc, like unhappiness in the society, definitely they are not compassionate. They are not equipped with loving kindness, and they don't have the humanity, actually, right? Because if you do, then you cannot imagine that they can do something like that. So these two are prerequisite for relative bodhicitta to arise. Okay? And even before these two also need a foundation. And that foundation, first of all, is we covered yesterday is the renunciation, thinking about the samsara, nature of the samsara. Samsara is something you don't want to attach to. Samsara is something that you want to abandon. You have to cultivate that thought, right? Not attach, not clinging to the samsara. Instead, just let go of that attachment, attachment to the samsara. So that is called renunciation thought. So first, renunciation thought. On that, then you can cultivate loving kindness towards all sentient beings as you are once a loving mother. And then after that, you also cultivate the compassion, right? So when you have these two, then you can now work on cultivating bodhicitta. And particularly now we are talking about this relative bodhicitta or conventional bodhicitta, right? Now, talking about relative or conventional bodhicitta, actual practice. So here the root text again, the first cultivate loving kindness and compassion well. So that we just covered, right? Then then the actual practice of this relative bodhicitta or the conventional bodhicitta, in the root text, it's trained by alternating sending and taking. Alternate, okay? Sending and taking, you alternate. That is the root text, it says. So then what does that mean? Sending and taking. So this is now talking about exchanging oneself with other sentient beings. So there is a sending and taking going on. In terms of cultivating bodhicitta, then you have to do this. Like now we are talking about the relative bodhicitta. So you have to exchange, but whatever good things you have to give, completely give to them, give to the sentient beings. Mentally, of course, there's no physical thing to give, but you are like virtues, your qualities, something positive that you have. Even all the accumulations of the merit that you have, whatever you have, then, mentally you have to give to other sentient beings. Of course, here also it means really physically you can do that too. Real sense of giving means then in this case, like physically giving your belongings, you can give your time to help others. And whatever you have, monetary accumulation or anything that you have, you can give. And then in addition to that, mentally, you can give everything else, like your, as I just mentioned, the accumulation of your merit and all the good things that you have. Those are not physical, so that's why you have to give, like totally give to sentient beings, without any kind of second thought. So completely giving. That is the sending part. You send to them. Then taking meaning whatever the negative deeds, negative accumulation, suffering, problems, shortcomings, right? And even including like diseases and addictions that now we see with a lot of people, that you take in mentally. So that's the sending and taking. So in this 7-point mind training text, this particular text, it's directly going into the exchange, like giving and taking. But usually it goes like in other mind training, it goes like one step before this one, you practice equalizing yourself. You have to make yourself and other sentients equal. Because one step little bit, easier for them, for you to go to the exchanging practice. But here, coming from selling tradition, Atisha in the 7-point mind training goes directly into exchanging. Okay, so in Tibetan, this called Dakshin Jewa, meaning oneself and others. Jewa meaning exchange, like a, okay. So, so that is the actual practice of the relative bodhicitta or the conventional bodhicitta. So that sending, in other words, giving all your good things to sentient beings and taking all the bad things to yourself. Sometimes also you do this with your breathing. So that's why here the root text says, let them both ride the wind. So here it's talking about wind, meaning wind horse. Wind horse is none other than our breath. When we are breathing in and we are breathing out, then there's a wind, right? There's a wind going on. And so that's why write this thought, these thoughts, right? Sending and taking thought has to go with your breath. When you breathe out, you have to think at that time, all your good things, virtues, merit, and positive, karma and everything is goes to sentient beings through this breath. So this breath as a riding horse. And when you breathe in, then all their negativities and come to you, you take them in. But just taking them in, you also have to think at the end that now those sentient beings are completely free from suffering and cause of suffering because I have taken it. Right? Similarly, when you send good things towards them, at that time you also think that now all of them are satisfied. Now they have no shortage of anything because I have given everything to them. So you have to have all the full-fledged of a whole this action of giving and taking. Okay. Okay. Then there's the root text again. Here says so. In other words, like this is actual practice when you are actually practicing the relative bodhicitta practice here is the Tonglen. Tonglen meaning sending and taking, right? And then post-meditative session. Now, when you finish the session on this actual practice, then during the break time, then you have to practice these. The root text says, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 roots of virtue, to remind yourself, train in all circumstances using verses for the sequence of taking, beginning with yourself. So 3 objects means 3 kinds of any kind of object, that's attractive object, not ugly object, and then like a neutral in between, not attractive, not ugly, but in between. 3 kinds of objects, right? And 3 poisons meaning desire, anger, and attachment, or desire, anger, and delusion or ignorance. And then 3 virtues, root of virtues, right? 3 roots of virtues meaning really like virtues accumulated through body, speech, and mind, I guess, right? And so So therefore, we have three objects, and in connection with these three objects, then three mental afflictions, desire, anger, and ignorance may arise. So when that happens, then what do we have to do? We have to utilize them, these three poisons, three mental afflictions, using them, then you have to transform it. And transform, instead of like these are causing your trouble, you have to now utilize them and transform them into three roots of virtues. That's what, like, due to three objects, possibility of arising three mental afflictions, and now we have two things together. Therefore, you have the chance to transform it into three virtue states, right? And how do you do that? So when, for example, when you are looking at a attractive object, beautiful object, let's say then desire, some of the attachment arises. And so at that time, you have to take this attachment into part. You have to utilize this attachment, right? So how do you do that? Because this attachment or the desire is, whoever has it, it's a bad thing. It's a negative thing. That's why it's called mental affliction. So that's why you have to think now, here, I can feel that I am giving rise to this attachment or the desire by looking at this beautiful object, right? So I'm in trouble because I don't like this attachment, but it's there now. And then you have to think, there are many sentient beings who are also doing the same thing that what I'm going through right now. So may all their kind of attachment or desire be ripened upon me now. May I be the representative of all of them, so that they don't have to go through the suffering that will be caused by this kind of desire. So may I be the representative of it, right? Similar thing also when you look at the ugly kind of object, and then you get kind of annoyed, you don't like it, because therefore then you get even kind of anger or something like that. Then same thing, you have to think that, so there are many other people also going through the same kind of thing, and so therefore, may I be a representative. So this way, what you are doing is now you are utilizing your anger as a path. And when you are able to do that, then anger or desire at that time is not a bad thing, because you have the capability of making it something good, even though its nature is bad. But you can transform it, because the reason is because it's impermanent, right? And then also, like, not only you at that time when desire arises or anger arises, ignorance arises, you transform it, but at the same time, you have to also at the end pray that may all sentient beings be completely free from these three different poisons. And then next it says, to remind yourself, train in all circumstances by applying verses, right? So, in other words, we need a constant reminder. So that's why I think usually we say mindfulness. Mindfulness has to be all the time with you, because otherwise, maybe when you hear something like a very touching kind of dharma or something like that, you get very excited, but then you forget. But that's why in order to remind yourself, then in all circumstances, you have to recite, you have to say words that carries this kind of message, right? Bodhicitta message. But in other words, like a word that reminds you that you have taken the Bodhisattva vow and you are practicing bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is something you have to cultivate all the time. So, right? So that's why uh, so that's why the verses or some kinds of words that really kind of brings you memory back is very, very useful. And there are many different stories like that. For example, in ancient time in India, particularly in, I think, in the southern part of India, there was one Buddhist practitioner. He was reciting uh, the words of Four Noble Truths repeatedly, many, many times. And the reason behind that is because so that he don't forget. He can always then contemplate on the meaning of the Four Noble Truths and also meditate or practice. So that's the reason. Uh, and then also, particularly in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we have many things to recite, many, many prayers that we recite. But the main purpose for that is this one. But whether uh, people who are reciting those prayers all the time have this thought or not, it's different question, different thing. But supposed to be that purpose. So therefore, just reciting doesn't mean a thing. It's like a parrot can also recite, right? But reciting together with the contemplation of the meaning, then it serves the purpose. When you recite something, when you recite even a shloka or one verse of the praises to Nagarjuna or Buddha, at that time you really have to contemplate or uh, you know think about the meaning of each word and visualize that uh, in your own mind, like talking about the qualities of the Buddha, then when you actually are able to do it, and that's how you can have the goosebumps and also the tears kind of automatically coming, down. That means that you are now actually doing it. But otherwise, just recitation of some words that mean nothing. So that's the meaning of that. The To remind yourself, train in all circumstances by applying verses. And then next one, for the sequence of taking, begin with yourself. Now, we already had this discussion on the actual practice of exchange, sending and taking, right? And then the question is where to begin? Begin with the taking or the sending? And it says for the sequence of taking, begin with yourself, right? For example, begin with yourself means, for example, if you are sick or if there's some kind of particular suffering that you are going through, uh, and so the at that time when you are going through this particular kind of suffering, and also sickness or something like that, you have, instead of losing your hope and losing your mind, you really have to be strong at that time and think that in the future, not only this time, in the future, uh, until I attain perfect Buddhahood, there will be many ups and downs for me. May all of those shortcomings and also suffering and also not meeting with the right cause and condition, may it all be ripened upon me at this time. May this suffering or may this sickness that I'm going through, may it be the substitute for all of the future sicknesses and also suffering, so that I don't have to go through this anymore. So this is what it means. First, start with yourself. Because that's just easy, right? Because you is important. Then after that, of course, you can expand this. Then same thing, you have to use this with other people. Okay. So now third one is transforming adverse circumstances into the path of awakening. That's the topic. And the root text says, when the world and beings are filled with negativity, transform adversity into the path of awakening. So when we think about at this moment, right now, what's happening in the world, there are some parts of the world, war going on, and also natural calamities, fire problem, and flooding, and also famine, and so forth and so on, right? And so, of course, particularly as a Buddhist Mahayana practitioner, we have to help those who are going through suffering as much as we can. But there are situations that we cannot help. At that time, what you have to do is transform this whole adversity, what's happening in the world, into path of awakening, meaning path of enlightenment. So, for example, uh, the war, thinking about the war, we cannot stop it. We don't have the power, right? And instead of getting kind of agitated and also sad, I think it's a golden opportunity for us to reflect on those people who are going through suffering, and then mentally we share, we console them, but also at the same time, who are causing this, who are creating this war? For them, instead of getting angry, we have to develop compassion. Because these people, as I said before, have no idea what they are doing. Of course, what I mean by that is in the sense of karma, they have no sense at all. They think that whatever they can do right now, that's it, right? They don't have to go through, the result of what they are doing, because they don't actually, first of all, they don't believe in past life, future life, or many of them. I do not speak for everybody, but most cases like that. So that's why this time, if I'm becoming most powerful, that's it. But in order to become that powerful, then you have to go through all of this, like causing a lot of trouble But you are responsible from our point of view, current point of view, even though maybe in this world's law may not reach there, law may not be applicable because they are so powerful, but the other law beyond this world is there. There's no escaping from it. So that's why there is all the reason for us not to get angry with them. Instead, really develop compassion for them. It's good for us, but also they are deserving because they are completely ignorant. So that's what they are doing. Because otherwise, they cherish themselves so much that they are thinking that they are doing something very good for them. But instead, they are actually in the wrong path, right? So that's why this is what it means. Like when uh, world and beings are filled with negativity, transfer adversity into the path of awakening. Okay. Um, then next one, transforming adversity by means of relative bodhicitta. Drive all blame into one. This is quite difficult to do, but as a bodhisattva, we also kind of reflected a little bit yesterday, like talking about everything's our mental projection, right? Our mental reflection. So that's why whatever is happening out there, negativities or everything, something that's going wrong, instead of blaming somebody, instead of looking for somebody to blame, you have to blame yourself. That's what it is talking about. Drive all blame into one. The into one is into yourself. But yourself also, in a sense, is not really you are to be blamed, but you are grasping to the self. That is the one. Self-attachment, self-clinging, self-clinging or self-attachment, attachment to the self, self-grasping is the troublemaker. So this is what we have to get rid of. Selflessness meaning, grasping to the self um, is something that we have to get rid of. And in order to get rid of the grasping to the self, we have to look for object which is the self. And if you look for the object, whether that is something worthwhile, something that is there or not, then you find that there's no object, there's no self. So when you don't find self, then self-grasping obviously is wrong, right? It's something you made up. Actually, it's not there. When there's no object, there shouldn't be subject grasping to the self. So that's why blame everything into one meaning is self-grasping. Your self-grasping is the one that is creating. Those who do not have self-grasping, those who are beyond grasping to the self, those who are now in a state that is called selflessness, selfless state, they don't have suffering. They don't have that kind of concept of you, me, and good, bad, and things like that. But all of those, like a good, bad, and you, me, and my thing and your thing, that kind of the discriminated thought, all arises from grasping to the self. Grasping to the self arises when you have a mistaken idea of self being something truly existent, right? And then also, uh, in general, uh, as a Mahayana practitioner, and particularly the mind training practitioner, uh, you should not forget sentient beings. All sentient beings, their kindness. Without them, then you will not be able to do a successful practice. Because in order to be successful in terms of your practice of the Bodhisattva path or Bodhicitta, you need all sentient beings. Because this bodhicitta involves like a practice of the generosity, practice of the moral conduct or moral discipline, and patience, and all of those six parameters. Six parameters all involve sentient beings. For example, if there's no one to give to, then you cannot practice generosity, practice of the giving. And also, if there are no sentient beings, then your kind of discipline of practice of moral conduct is not what you call useful. Like to whom you are practicing these, there's no one, right? So that's why sentient beings needed for all of the things, and the that means that also tells us that the things are all dependent on each other. There's no independent things because our own practice also depend on other things, right? Not only the teacher, but also sentient beings are equally important. Teachers are important because if teacher cannot teach you, then you do not know what to practice. But teacher can only teach you how to practice, but the actual practice involves all these sentient beings. And so that's why sentient beings are also equally important for our practice, like the Buddha. Mhm. So that is why we have to think the kindness of all sentient beings. And another way of putting it is, for example, in order for us to be able to successful in terms of our practice, we have to sustain ourselves, right? We have to live healthy life. In order to live a healthy life, then you can think how many people involved, because we need to have food. That food comes from a lot of people's work, farmers, and also the in the kitchen, for example, you have cook. The cooking involves a lot of people, so we have to think all of those kindness, each one of them. And then also environmentally, when you want to live a healthy life, you need a clean environment. And those who are cleaning also is related to your own practice, your own success. So that's why when you think that way, everybody deserves your gratefulness, your kind of a sense of how kind they are. That kind of I don't know what you call. Yeah, you shouldn't forget their kindness in that way. So that is the transforming adversity by means of relative bodhicitta. But now transforming adversity by means of ultimate bodhicitta. And root text says, by meditating on appearances arising from confusion as the four kayas, you obtain the supreme protection of emptiness. So now this is like ultimate bodhicitta. The ultimate bodhicitta is always like involving the emptiness or the ultimate sense of whatever the result is. For example, talking about the result is the Buddha body is the ultimate result. And talking about Buddha body, there are four kayas, four Buddha bodies, right? So in other words, uh, when we have this grasping to the self, or we are clinging to anything, attachment to anything, or kind of seizing anything, something like, a truly existent or something like that. And that is a obstacle for our path, for our practice. And so therefore, uh, here the methodology or the skillful means to offering here is by utilizing ultimate bodhicitta, and that is particularly the four kayas. You are transforming those obstacles or discursive thoughts into four kayas, four Buddhas of the body. Mm-hmm. So in other words, you have to think all of these are emptiness. But the body is, it's kind of given a name, but it's basically nature is the emptiness. It's talking about emptiness. So whatever the obstacles that appear, you shouldn't look at them. You shouldn't think them as something very dreadful, something very scary, like a demon or actually a real obstacle. But you should think them as one of the four kayas of the Buddha. So that means then, Buddha body cannot harm you. Buddha body cannot create obstacle for you, right? So that kind of protection that you are doing yourself or creating for yourself is called the protecting yourself by means of emptiness, by means of the understanding of the emptiness. It's called emptiness protects you. And it says the protection of emptiness or emptiness that protects you or utilizing emptiness as your protection is the ultimate, is the unsurpassable. There's no better protection than that. It's an unsurpassable protection. It's the best protection, actually. There are many stories like that. Okay, maybe compassion is one of them, but also the emptiness. For example, there was one interesting story. Actually, maybe it's a recent story. His Holiness Sakya teaching the 41st head of Sakya right now. His root guru by the name of Thamba Rinpoche in Tibet. Okay, one day he was traveling somewhere in the eastern part of Tibet, Kham area, and there was a very well-known famous demon. It's called Thaya Dengen, meaning very, I think, fearful demon. And he's causing a lot of trouble, particularly he's always kind of challenging with some those who are very good practitioners, because he himself was a very good practitioner. He was in retreat for a long, long time, but at the very end of his life, something went totally wrong, and he became this kind of a ghost or demon. So that's why, since he was a very good practitioner, this demon is now very powerful. It's not any kind of ordinary demon. So that is why this demon particularly challenges those who are very good practitioners. So that's why when His Holiness Sakya teacher's teacher, Thamba, which was traveling, and there was a ravine, I think, they have to cross. And then, in between two mountains. And then this demon or the ghost appeared, one foot on one mountain and another foot on the other mountain, was basically blocking their passage. And then Thamba Rinpoche, right there at that very moment, meditated on Mahakala. he visualized himself transforming himself into Mahakala. And for him, for Thampa Rinpoche, this demon all of a sudden transformed him into He Vajra. He Vajra is the boss of Mahakala, And right there, Thampa Rinpoche then realized how powerful this demon was. And then instead of being fearful or scared, Thampa Rinpoche genuinely cultivated compassion for him, sorry for him, real sorry. And that strong sense of compassion kind of defeated this demon. And the demon disappeared right there because he couldn't challenge Thampa Rinpoche. But when actually, when he visualizing on a deity, that one actually transform even higher. That's just an example. So that's why when you are able to do this kind of right there at that very moment, transforming something into something, nothing will cause you trouble. There will be no such thing as obstacle. So this is exactly what he's talking about. When obstacle appears, you have to transform it into one of those four kayas with the Buddha, and that will protect you because you are now actually placing yourself in the state of emptiness. So emptiness is the great protection. So next, turning adverse circumstances into the path by means of specific practices. The supreme method consists of 4 practices. So generally speaking, when you are practicing Dharma, there is a tendency of having a lot of obstacles because you are doing something right. So there are many other things that are opposite of this. They don't want to see you successful in this kind of good work that you are doing. So that's why many of the spirits or ghosts or demons or whatever you call it, they are always ready to challenge you. So that's why you have to expect that the obstacles come, but you have to also have a determining thought, determination in yourself that I will challenge them, I will defeat them. No obstacle will take over my peace of mind. So you have to have that kind of resolute mind. And so when these kinds of obstacles happens, there are many different methods or skillful means to get rid of them, right? For example, in order to get rid of these kind of the obstacles, you can also accumulate merit, meaning make offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, and give danas to the Sangha, and also feed the hungry, and so forth and so on. Lamb, like butter lamps, and also that's one thing. The second one is you also practice confession. So go to the temple in front of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their image on the shrine. You can confess. You can do your confession practice right there. Or then another way of doing that is, for example, if you want to get rid of your obstacles, then if you feel that there is some kind of harm, coming towards you by some kind of evil spirits or something like that, then there are also methods uh, which is like giving tormas to them. You can perform ritual of torma rituals and give tormas to them, and this way, then obstacles will vanish. And also for the Dharma protectors, for example, you can also make Dharma offerings, right? There are many different kinds of Dharma giving Dharmas. But, the Dharma protectors, higher, form of Dharma protectors, you offer Dharma. And then the spirits and the other harm givers, those are kind of, you know, harm creator for them also in order for them to be able to satisfy you give dharmas to them because they're hungry, right? And good mind training practitioners not only like do these kinds of practices in order to get rid of the obstacles, but also you have to genuinely thank them, thank those obstacle creators, like spirits or evil spirits or demons, whatever, because when they create some problem to you, it means it's an indication that you are doing right. So that's why you have to thank them. I'm so happy that you are helping me by challenging them, by uh, counter acting to their creation of obstacles, you are enhancing your practice. So that means they are actually, in a way, uh, helping you, right? So that's why you have to, in mind trainers to thank them. And not only that, thank them, but also says, you guys still should help me, continuously help me, and I will give you torma, more torma, like that. So if you have that kind of confidence, you can actually talk to them like that. So far you are actually helping me, but even from now on in the future, keep helping me, and I will give you torma. So if you have that kind of confidence, if you are not so confident like that, then you can say, oh, please don't harm me. I'm giving you Torma. Please take this Torma. Be satisfied with me and don't bother me anymore. That's another thing. These are called like four different kinds of four methods of practices. And then it says, apply the practice to the unexpected as much as possible. Um, so in other words, like you have to be ready all the time, okay? Something you have to do spontaneously sometimes for a practice. You never know what, is ahead of you. And whatever the situation, whenever you are meeting with something, you be ready. So that's why uh, if suddenly something happens, like sickness happens or some accident happens, right? Uh, then at that very moment, instead of getting um, angry or sad or things like that, you be ready to transform that whole thing into actual practice. Because again, if it's something like accident happening to you, And you can immediately think that it's not just me, but there are many others also going through the same thing. And in the future too, many of people, many sentient beings will go through this kind of same situation. May all of them reckon upon me now. May I be the representative of all of them, and so that they don't have to go through this again. This way, then you are utilizing whatever the circumstances into a path. And similarly, when you particularly something, something wonderful thing happened to you and you are very happy at that moment, and then don't forget at that time sentient beings. You have to share. You have to think of all sentient beings. All sentient beings are also deserving this kind of happiness that I'm going through is so good. So may all have this, or may I be the representative of all of them and then enjoy this happiness with me. And now next one, the practice of one life condensed into one. To apply the 5 powers is in brief the heart of these pit instructions. So 5 powers, talking of 5 powers. The first power is the power of impulsion, right? Impulsion, the power impulsion is a determination again. From today onwards, until I attain Buddhahood, I will never abandon bodhicitta, practice of bodhicitta. I will always practice bodhicitta. So that kind of resolute mind you must have. That is the first power. Then second one is the power of acquaintance or power of habituation. You have to you have to have a habit of doing this again and again. So that's very much like a meditation. Meditation is for that because a new thing does not abide with us until we just practice it again and again. So that kind of doing repeatedly the same thing again and again has its own power. There's a second power. Then third power is called the power of white seeds, it says. Power of white seeds. And that is like making offerings to the Buddha Dharma Sangha, and by means of all different kinds of things, you accumulate merit. And also like doing prayers, praying to Buddha Dharma Sangha, saying to them that may my practice of mind training be successful. And may I ask for blessings from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas so that my practice will be fruitful, right? So that is the called the power of white seed. And then fourth power is the power of rejection. So power of rejection basically means, again, going back to the self-cherishing, self-grasping. And you now know that all the problem comes from self-grasping, self-cherishing. And then therefore you want to get rid of this self-cherishing thought, self-grasping. So that is why it's called rejection, power of rejection. You are rejecting self-grasping for that reason, rejecting self altogether. Then the last one is the power of aspiration. Power aspiration is, uh, so you have to aspire. You have to do like at the end of anything, you have to do the aspiration prayer and dedicate your whatever positive action that you have undertaken. You have to dedicate this. Okay, so that is the five powers. So you shouldn't forget. So in other words, any practice that you do have to be combined with these five powers. If your practice is with these five powers, then it's going to be a good practice. Mhm. Okay, then it says the Mahayana instructions for transference are those very five powers. Your conduct is essential. So transference in Tibetan is poa, is one of the very famous actually practice, right? But here it's just transferring. It's not talking about this poa practice in generally when you have that. Uh, Here in terms of the Mahayana, particularly the Sutra tradition, the power or transference instruction or pit instruction on the transference is to uh, to remember Buddha. In other words, when you die, okay, at the time of the death, you have to remember Buddha. And if you are able to die while having this reflection on the Buddha, qualities of the Buddha, thinking about the Buddha, then that is the pit instruction on the Mahayana practice, particularly the Sutra practice, because it is very beneficial or it has a lot of benefit for doing that. So that's why one must remember this. You know, at the time of the death, if you are thinking something else, then there's a danger of you are wandering with that thought somewhere. But the important thing to remember is you have to remember Buddha and try to die while you are having that thought. And particularly if you are able at that time when you are dying, if your physical kind of situation allows you, then try to be in the meditative posture. For example, in a cross-legged, sitting in a cross-legged, so-called the Buddha Vairocana posture, and the very straight and hands are in meditative gesture and looking at you know uh, if you have something in front of you like image of the Buddha, then you have to look at them and so on. Basically it's a meditative posture. If you can go from this slide to the next on that kind of physical posture together with the remembrance of the qualities of the Buddha, then that is the pit instruction of the poet in Mayan tradition, particularly the Sutra tradition. Now, next one, evaluating one's mind training, whether one's mind training practice is going well, on the right path or not, right? And it says, subsume the purpose of all dharma into one. Hold to the main of the two witnesses, continuously relying on a happy mind alone. If one is able to do it, even when distracted, one is trained. The first, subsume the purpose of all dharma into one. Subsume all the purpose of dharma into one means there are many different kinds of dharmas taught by Buddha himself. So as we discussed yesterday, for example, those dharmas are categorized into like Hinayana and Mahayana, right, in general. But you have to subsume, you have to bring everything together, the purpose of all of this dharma into one. And that one purpose, all the dharma's purpose is just one, is to get rid of grasping to the self-grasping. Okay? So you have to condense all the purpose into this one thing, which is to get rid of the self-grasping is the purpose of all the dharmas. Yeah. So, for example, in the Hinayana and Mahayana, for how do we interpret this here? And it says, Buddha taught the in order to get rid of grasping to the self, oneself, grasping to the oneself, then he has given the Hinayana teachings. And grasping to others, in order to get rid of that, then Buddha has given the teachings of the Mahayana, right? Or another way of putting it, from the Mahayana point of view, there are two different selves, okay? And therefore, there are two different grasping to the selves also. So first one is grasping to the self or person. That's me, I. And then second one is grasping to the self of phenomena, right? The Hinayana do not talk about that. Hinayana only is grasping to self, personal self, okay? Pudgala, right? In Sanskrit it's called. But Mahayana has two different selves, therefore two different self-grasping, okay? So anyway, yeah, according to that, in order to get rid of the grasping to the self of a person, then Buddha has given the teachings of the Hinayana. So that's why by practicing Hinayana teaching, one would be able to attain nirvana. One would be able to attain or get rid of samsara and attain nirvana. So that means you will be free from all the sufferings. But for Mahayana, that's not enough. You know, yourself, freeing yourself from the suffering of the samsara is a good thing. However, it's not enough because all other sentient beings are your related to you. You know, they are also your mother one time or other. So therefore, how can you forget your mother? You cannot leave behind your mother. So you have to take care of them. So that is why Mahayana says that you have to get rid of the grasping to the self or phenomenon. So when you do not have grasping to the self or any of these, then you are now free from all of it, right? So this is the main purpose of teaching. Main purpose of teaching is to get rid of this grasping to the self. So that's why evaluating yourself with your own uh, mind training practice, whether it's going well or not, you have to check uh, whether your self-grasping, self-cherishing thought is becoming less or not, right? So if it is like getting less, that means then you are on the right path. And then the second one, hold to the main of the two witnesses. Meaning, in terms of witness, there are two witnesses. When we think about it, witness means generally speaking, when whatever we do, there are two witnesses, uh, oneself and others, right? And among these two, you have to pay more attention on the uh, yourself being witness, because what you do, what is going on in your mind, you know better than anybody else. Other people cannot read your mind, so they cannot be witness, except for physical action they can see, they can witness, right? But internal mental action, they cannot witness. They cannot be your witness. You be your witness. So that's why, yeah, among the is true, the hold the main is you. Hold the main of two witnesses. Among two witnesses, you are the main witness. You hold on to that. So in other words, you shouldn't forget that, because you are the best witness for yourself. And then next one, continuously rely on the mind that is at ease alone. So this is like, again, for the practitioners, it says, be happy all the time. That's what it is. Because now you have enough of information, uh, nothing exists really. So there's no reason for you to be not happy. Even something bad happens to you, but being unhappy doesn't solve it. Being unhappy will not help at all. So therefore, why you lose your peace of mind for something that you cannot control? So that's why be happy all the time, whether it's a good situation or bad situation, does not matter. As a practitioner, you shouldn't lean on any of these two extremes, like bad, good, You be always in peace. And then the actual evaluation or the test of your mind training practice going well or not is uh, if one is able to do, if one is able to do it even when distracted, one is trained. So again, you have to evaluate yourself. Uh, in the past, you really have to rely on reminder, particularly the mindfulness, right? So in order for you not to forget the bodhicitta or sentient beings or loving kindness, compassion, all of those, in order to be in that state of mind, you have to remind yourself again and again. But now you have to check, even when you are sometimes distracted, at that time, at that moment, uh, if Even at that time, when you are distracted, you have at that time you have the thought of loving kindness towards sentient beings and things like automatically there. That means you are now trained. Then your training is going well. But don't stop there because the training has no limit. It's limitless. You have to go to the perfection. So when you feel that, when you realize that, oh, I'm trained and my training is going well, don't stop. It can relapse, it can go back, but you have to aim for the perfection of it. Okay. Now, next one is the commitments of mind training. So I don't have much time, so you can read on your own because actually, basically, we finished. So here, the root text I can read for you. Train constantly in three basic principles. This means one should train in the three following points, right? Don't go against the pleasures of your mind training. That's number one. And number two, don't be reckless in your mind training. Number three, do not let your mind training become one-sided. Okay? Then change your attitude, but stay natural. Change your attitude means an attitude from negative to positive, of course, but stay always natural. Uh, do not be over kind of exaggerated, basically. Do not speak of impaired limbs. In other words, if some other people have, shortcomings, don't mention it. Never concern yourself with others' faults, right? Discard the strongest afflictions first. So we have a lot of afflictions, mental afflictions, but you have to check which one is the strongest you have right now, desire or anger or ignorance or which one. And you have to deal with the strongest one first and then go from there. Give up all expectations. Don't expect anything, just do it. You know, then by doing it without expectation, then it will not cause any kind of negative thoughts later on. Abandon poisonous food. It means both. Like, of course, who is going to take poisonous food, right? But and in meaning, it means like really the thought in your thought. Do not maintain inappropriate loyalty, right? That means really loyalty is good in the sense of like a positive loyalty, but there's negative loyalties. Don't be confused with that. Do not engage in ugly thoughts or ugly fights. Do not lie in ambush. So again, to take revenge, you are waiting for a chance to take revenge. Do not lie in ambush, that's thing. Do not target delicate points, other people's. Don't put an ox load on a cow. That means, you have to also, helping sentient beings, you have to see what is appropriate for something. And don't put like a ox's load on a cow because that's too overwhelming. Do not turn the practice into right. Do not aim to be first in the race. Do not bring a good God down to the level of a demon, right? Do not seek out sorrow as a condition for happiness. Then the precepts of mind training, carry out all yogas in a single way, all practices or different things, but you cannot do a lot of things together. So that's why bring everything together in one practice. Carry out all countermeasures in one way. Two things to do, one at the beginning and one at the end. When at the beginning, and usually in minor practice, at the beginning, you have to take refuge. And then at the end, you have to do the dedication prayer. So that dedication prayer is like a sealing of your deal. Then it will not, vanish. Whichever of the two occurs, bear it patiently. Guard the two at the risk of your life. Train in the three challenges. So these are just, I'm reading it as a oral transmission because the actual practice is already finished. Take hold of the three principal causes. Cultivate the three things that must not deteriorate. So you have the commentary, so you can share and read. Maintain the three not separated. Practice impartially. It is essential to make your training pervasive and profound at all times. Practice at all times with particular cases. Don't be dependent on other conditions. Now practice what matters most. Don't be misdirected. Train resolutely. Liberate yourself by means of investigation and analysis. Do not boast. Do not be irritable. Do not be volatile. Do not expect gratitude. Now that the five degenerations are rampant, integrate them in the path of awakening. This essence of the elixir of pit instructions has been handed down from Selingpa to Atisha and Atisha to his disciples in Tibet, the Kadamba masters, and particularly this 7-point mind training is collected together by Chekawa, Rishi Chekawa. Having awakened the karmic remnants of past training, my inspiration increased to the point that completely disregarding suffering and disparagement, I thought out the oral instructions to tame self-grasping. Where I too died at this point, I would have no regrets. Okay, so that's that. 소남디 탐제지바니 탐대니베 나는 탐제니 기가 나지 말롱 투바 집에서라 로그런도와서 잠바바여 지사라 침바는 군도 상보 대한 대전에 대다 꾼게 제소 나로 여와 대다 탐제라도 뭐 주좀식의 여와 탐제지 뭐와 초도 나봐 나이 기회서 와디게 이제 상보 주저라도 뭐가지 장조 좀 교과 책임 그러자서 가만히 우리 틀에 점바산데 사자바에 점바 제조로 제 강제비제 자와 노제 빠데사지 수지 제가 두배 인체에 봐 그냥 진짜 나가냐 봐라 쇼 오케이 thank you